week's drive, we get right inside Formula One, see the end of a world champ's career, come too close for comfort, and hope the end of the ride comes soon enough. All this and more in this week's Drive. We start this week with what is really a mobile laboratory, the result of research into high-tech materials which must make the lightest, strongest parts possible. Titanium, magnesium and carbon are the raw ingredients that help to make a modern Formula One car.
There are very strict rules in Formula One about how the structure of a car must withstand a crash. In an accident, the structure must be very robust. That means the side sections, the monocoque, the transmission and the car's nose. Suitably strong, high-grade materials must also be used to make these items.
Although the panels that cover a car are big, they're thin and they weigh almost nothing. The main material used is carbon in a woven fibre, which is extremely light but very strong. Carbon fibre is used in some parts in layers of matte and in others in a sandwich or honeycomb. Formula One cars need to pass high-impact crash tests before they're allowed to race, much more demanding than road car crash tests.
Sure, these materials are always getting lighter and more efficient, but we should never overlook safety. Even carbon fibre still has one drawback that you've always got to watch out for, that it doesn't delaminate. That's the most dangerous thing with carbon fibre.
Delamination occurs when the layers separate. In the cockpit, there are man-made fibres, plastic, aluminium and cable made of soft fireproof plastic. For example, the cockpit's inner surfaces are made of impact-absorbing foam with a thin coating of plastic. Kevlar is stronger and lighter than steel, so it's ideal for wheel tethers. The gearbox and transaxle are subject to extreme forces. The titanium end plate is tough enough to cope with rear-end collisions, so no gearbox fluid escapes. The transmission itself is made of a compound 30% lighter than steel. The engine is also made of this light, strong material. Aluminium alone is too soft to withstand the engine's 800 horsepower. The crankshaft is one of the engine's few remaining steel parts, along with piston rings and connecting rods. Many parts are now made of a type of ceramic because it's heat-resistant and long-lasting, although it can be brittle. We find a simple material in the suspension. A rubber block protects the shock absorbers from damage. There's a great variety in the electronics. Copper and glass fibre for cables and connectors, gold and platinum for the plugs and adapters, and some plastic to hold it all. Even the so-called plank under the car is no longer wood, but plastic. It guarantees the car maintains a minimum ride height. In no small way, high-tech materials make Formula One the top-line sport that it is today.
I think you certainly see a contrast in commercial automotive where gears were designed for life. That must mean that you don't really want to service them or replace them for maybe 200,000 kilometres. Well, in our case, all we need them to do is go around the track for 2 hours.
But they do have some things in common. Careful choice of materials, precision manufacturing processes and relentless quality control. In building road cars, the objectives are long life, affordability and efficient mass production. But designs and materials do cross over from Formula One to production cars.
Carbon fibre brakes have been used in Formula One for a long time. They are very light and for that reason alone offer a number of benefits. They've now begun to be used in a modified ceramic fibre form in sports cars. Prices will fall further in future, making it possible to use these sort of lightweight brakes in mass production as well.
Ceramic brakes have one other advantage. They stop better. Braking distances are reduced and steering agility is improved. Lightweight materials in road cars improves power-to-weight ratios, cutting both fuel consumption and air pollution. Research in Formula One continues unabated, searching for lighter, stronger materials, which will improve performance by even a fraction of a second per lap. As a result of discoveries and developments in Formula One, more and more resilient and lightweight materials will find their way into passenger cars in years to come. Design developments during this year in the Williams BMW team have seen their cars jump to the forefront of the battle for this year's championship. When Alonso became the youngest modern driver and the first Spaniard to win a Grand Prix, he added a new dimension to the title. Not for years has it been this close. Another podium from Montoya and a dismal day for Ferrari has pushed Williams to the head of the field. If Bridgestone can't match Michelin soon, it might be all over. Well, just how different are Formula One cars from rally cars? Estonian Marko Martin has emerged as Ford's top driver in this year's World Rally Championship. After the recent tarmac rally of Germany, Jordan Formula One drivers Giancarlo Fisichella and Ralf Furman were invited to try out his car on a brief section. Fisichella was first in the Ford Focus, going out with the Estonian in the unfamiliar right-hand seat. Marko lies sixth in the Rally Championship and the top Ford driver, having won in Greece and Finland. Fizzy is 11th in the Formula One title chase. The Ford Focus was unveiled at the end of 1998, billed as the ultimate World Rally car. Placing the much-loved but outclassed Escort, the Focus had a revolutionary gearbox, huge frontal downforce and an ultra-stiff chassis. After an initial winning streak, a string of crashes, breakdowns and engine unreliability got in the way, but the car saved Colin McRae's life after his crash in Corsica sent the Focus down a cliff. Afterwards, Fizzy was asked what he thought of it after his 700 horsepower plus Jordan Ford.
When I was driving, the car was fantastic. There is a very good grip. There is a fantastic sensation when you touch the throttle and you got a lot of horsepower helping you get out from the corner. So it was fantastic.
Next up for a pony ride was Ralf Furman in his rookie year in Formula One and lying 17th with a single point to his name. His father founded the Van Diemen racing car factory 30 years ago. The Focus rally car uses a 2-litre 4-cylinder turbocharged engine that delivers about 300 horsepower, less than half that of the Formula One. The Focus also weighs about twice what the Jordan does, but with four-wheel drive, it's still an exciting car to pilot. Ralf had to adjust to the idea of using the handbrake to get around corners and shifting gears with a stubby sequential gear lever rather than the paddles on the steering wheel of his Jordan. The 2001 season was a mixed year for the Focus. Poor reliability hampered Colin McRae's season, but he took 3 consecutive wins in the middle of the year. Then the inadequacies of both the Focus and its Pirelli tyres on tarmac, plus some driving errors, saw him lose the title at the final round. Earlier this year, Ford released a new version of the Focus RS at Rally New Zealand. Although Marko retired from the event, he was able to take on and beat eventual winner Marcus Gronholm on a handful of stages. The car took its maiden win when Martin grabbed his first WRC victory 2 rounds later in Greece, and he backed that up with a win in Finland. On its first rally on tarmac, Rally Deutschland, Martin was on the pace, and although he only finished 5th overall, he set 10 fastest stage times, more than any other driver.
This is an experience for me. It's a new day out. I mean, it's a 4-wheel drive. It's very different to what we run, but you know, hopefully one day I'd love to have a go on a rally on a gravel stage. It'd be very different to this.
Is there anything you can compare to Formula One?
It has a launch control, but obviously technology is very high in both formulas, and you know, to have a world championship winning car like Ford, it takes a lot of money and a lot of technology and a lot of clever people. I think the technology can be transferred a lot.
So can we expect a second career from Ralf Furman in a World Rally car?
I think we'll concentrate on Formula One first, maybe in 20 years or something, you don't know.
You were driving with 2 Formula One drivers in your World Rally car. How is your impression?
Quite the way I expected. I mean, they are good drivers, and our car has 4 wheels and steering wheels, so they know what to do with those things. So it's no worries.
Staying with rallying, 4 times world champion Tommi Mäkinen has announced that he is to retire from the sport at the end of the year. After humble beginnings with a Nissan team in 1992, the Finn joined Mitsubishi in 1995 and dominated the rally circuit, winning 4 consecutive world championships from 96 to 1999. However, having established himself as the #1 rally driver in the world in '99, the 39-year-old Mäkinen has since failed to win another world championship. But along with fellow Finn Juha Kankkunen, Mäkinen remains one of only 2 men to have won 4 world titles. He's won 24 World Rally events, 1 less than overall leaders and teammates Colin McRae and Carlos Sainz. He said he would continue to race for fun in events like motocross. Mäkinen said in January that he wanted to win a 5th title before calling it a day, but he is currently 8th overall, 31 points adrift of Peugeot's leader Richard Burns. Britton Burns has not won a rally this season, but has been helped by a new points system that rewards the top 8 finishers rather than the top 6, and narrows the points gap between the winner and runner-up. After claiming his 4 world titles and driving Mitsubishi to a manufacturer's championship win in 1998, Mäkinen joined Subaru in 2002. Just hours after Tommy announced his retirement, it was revealed that Burns will replace Mäkinen at Subaru. Burns, who won a world title with Subaru in 2001, is reported to have signed a 2-year deal with the British-based team and will take his co-driver Robert Reid with him. The 23rd of 36 NASCAR races this year was over 200 laps and was slowed by 8 yellow flags. Most of the cautions were caused by minor incidents, but 2 were spectacular.
There's definitely contact.
On lap 63, Todd Bodine tried to get between Kurt Busch and Kenny Wallace. Busch got loose and tapped Bodine, sending him into the wall in front of Wallace. As the tangled cars slid, Wallace burrowed under Bodine and his engine compartment burst into flames. Both drivers scrambled from their cars and neither was injured. On lap 78, another caution flag came out for Ricky Craven and Casey Mears. After Craven crashed into the wall, Mears couldn't avoid Craven's disabled car and slammed into the wall too. On lap 106, Rusty Wallace went out when the engine of his Dodge blew and started another fire, filling the cockpit with smoke and flames. Wallace was able to ease the car to a stop on the infield grass and scramble to safety without injury. His teammate, Ryan Newman, stretched his final tank of fuel out to 52 laps and grabbed the lead from Kurt Busch 3 laps from the end.
Get out of there, Tank. I wonder if that fire extinguisher is going to go off here in the back. Doesn't look like it.
Wait, that looks exactly like Ryan Newman's car, burning the rear of these cars.
Well, that looks to me like final corner. It hasn't bobbled yet.
Busch tried to match Newman but came up short, ran dry and finished 18th. I heard Busch was going to be pushing his luck more than we were, Newman said. We were close. It'll be interesting to see what's left in the tank. Newman, last year's top rookie, grabbed his season-leading 5th victory of the year. An example of the world's most desirable sports car, the McLaren F1, was recently auctioned in London. The 1994 model, chassis number 11, had covered just 6,300 miles and had a variety of upgrades, lifting power to 627 brake horsepower. A 6.1-litre V12 BMW engine takes it from 0 to 60 miles an hour in 3.2 seconds. Inside, it has satellite navigation and a radio communication system. Less than 100 McLarens were ever built.
Its value does make it a rarity. The McLaren F1 is the superlative supercar. It's nearly 10 years since the car was first offered to customers, and there hasn't been one bettered since, hence the values have remained extremely high. Obviously, to afford one, you do have to be a wealthy individual, but I do regard it as a sign of success, I think.
The auction of these cars is a chance for those who love old vehicles from different eras to have an opportunity to bid for them and perhaps go home with something that will both appreciate in value and give them great pleasure in the owning and the driving. Various other cars joined the Big Mac on the auction floor, and they don't come much more different than the 1904 Star Tonneau with its wooden wheels and exposed chain drive. For the record, the McLaren sold for £535,000.
This particular sector of the market has shown unprecedented rises in interest in the last few years. There are a number of new collectors have come into the market. There are more and more events for using these cars, surprisingly. And whilst people generally will have to trail their car to a particular site and then do a rally or a tour, there's a lot of enjoyment to be had, and there's a lot of camaraderie, and there's quite a youthful interest in this market. And more and more people are coming into it.
Pre-war Bugatti races were lightweight, beautifully built, elegant thoroughbreds, and the road cars were no less beautifully made. Another nameplate which is no more. Sir Jack Brabham moved on from this Cooper to become a triple Formula One world champion, the only man to win in a car of his own making. World motocross champion Michael Pichon is out of action for the rest of the 2003 season after a crash during warm-up for the German Grand Prix that left the Frenchman with several broken ligaments in his left knee, ending his title hopes. With the final 2 rounds within 3 weeks, he has no hope of defending his championship, and this left the door open for Motocross Grand Prix Championship leader Stefan Everts to take yet another victory for Yamaha, his 7th win in a row. The Belgian looked unstoppable around the 21 laps of the demanding and steep track, winning by over 11 seconds in the end. Second place went to Dane Brian Jorgensen on his Honda, his best finish of the year, putting him into 4th overall in the championships. Joel Smets took 3rd place on his number 3 KTM, despite a mid-race crash thanks to a faulty front brake. Everts spoke of his strong championship position over Smets in the post-race press conference.
That was a little bit my tactic, to push really, really hard the first 15-20 minutes and make the gap, and I succeed, you know, and finally make the mistake and finally finish 3rd. So for the championship, it's a very good thing for me. I can start to relax a little bit more, and yeah, it's not necessary to win anymore.
This was the 66th career win for Everts. Pichon's not going anywhere, and it's unlikely that Jorgensen will win both of the next rounds, so the title race is an all-Belgian affair. Joel Smets and Javier Garcia-Vico roused the 11,000-strong crowd during the 650 moto with exciting action at the front of the pack. The title leader and winner of 9 races in the class then pulled away from Vico and eased to victory. Vico secured his 8th runner-up position of 2003 and still boasts a 100% podium record. Bernd Eckenbach claimed the last spot on the podium to the delight of the crowd at his home Grand Prix. Smets now lies within touching distance of his 5th World Championship, thanks to a 29-point advantage over Vico. Everts won the 125cc race too, ahead of Ramon and Townley, and going equal 3rd in the title. There are 50 more points available. Can he take this title too? One-make BMW Boxer Cup series moved to Mugello, where Thomas Hinterreiter was 2nd on the grid. Guest rider and TV commentator Jürgen Fuchs claimed a stunning 3rd spot for the start. Championship leader Italian Roberto Panici won here last year, but was only 6th fastest in practice. At the green flag, 39 identical 1150cc BMWs were on the grid to start the 14-lap race. Although qualifying was dry, rain threatened to fall as the bikes came to the line. At the start, Eurosport commentator Jürgen Fuchs grabbed an initial lead, and the entire field boomed through the initial turns without incident. Almost immediately he dropped back, and Panici assumed the lead, with Marcus Barth 2nd on bike 6, ahead of Hinterreiter and former 125cc Grand Prix racer Peter Uttel on 65. Panici's lead was never more than a bike length or 2, as Uttel dropped back and Andy Hoffman moved into the leading group. Fuchs was adjudged to have jumped the start and given a stop-go penalty, but he retired with a defective clutch. The lead changed constantly, with Swiss rider Hoffman taking his turn leading the Italian title leader and Barth, until the pair slipstreamed past him. Barth was using all the track to defend a microscopic lead, but his move was too early and Hoffman was able to retake the lead by drafting past him again.
Preannuncia un volatone assolutamente incredibile, una bagarre senza regole all'ultimo giro di questa gara, perché credo che sarà all'ultimo giro e non prima si deciderà chi sarà.
Then it's Panici's turn again as the Italian dives inside and spooks the Swiss into conceding the place. The battle for 7th place involved 5 riders for the entire race, with Englishman Paul Cooper coming out on top. At the front, Panici, Hoffman, Barth and Hinterreiter are joined by Belgian Sébastien Legrel on bike 45. The battle between Hinterreiter on bike 7 and Panici became ever more frantic as the two traded the lead 2 or 3 times on each corner. Watch as Roberto's knee snags Thomas's front tyre. That's got to hurt, but he still leads. Next, the two bang the protruding cylinders on their engines. You don't get closer than this. All the riders watch for a chance to slipstream past. No one wants to lead onto the straight unless they're clear of the pack. But in the final turn, the race is sealed. Hinterreiter runs out of clearance and is slammed offline, causing the others to slow. This gives Panici the break he needs, and he sprints to the line. A photo finish decides the rest of the order. Hoffman is luckiest, with Legrel 3rd, Barth 4th, and the hard-charging Hinterreiter back to 5th, the whole group within just 0.004 of a second. The fight for 7th is almost as close. Laurie Freemy gets it ahead of Fernando Cristobal and Guillaume Dietrich. The second Mugello win in 2 years cements Roberto's title lead, 10 points clear of Hoffman, with Sebastian another 13 points behind.
Don't run away. I'm really happy. I tried to understand the last lap. The last 3-4 laps, I'm arrived at the last corner in second, in first position to understand what to do the last corner of the last lap. And I decided the last lap to push too much, to be first, and to try to arrive first. Everything is going very well. I'm happy. It's okay.
It's been a great speedway season, so a bumper crowd packed into Gothenburg's Ullevi Stadium. With a different winner in each of the 5 events so far, the battle for the title is wide open. But the track had only been laid a week earlier, and it was suggested that the wrong materials may have been used, making for a highly dangerous surface. The first lap of the first heat showed just how tricky conditions were, as ruts appeared, making the smooth, natural sliding speedway turns impossible. Heat 2, and the riders were evidently struggling to control their machines, even on the straight. The surface was not only rutted, it was rock hard too. Todd Wiltshire won that heat and showed in no uncertain terms what he thought of the track. The competition made it to a 3rd heat, but after this, the riders went off for some animated discussions on the pros and cons of continuing. Swedish world champ Tony Rickardsson to the fore, and there was never really any doubt as to what choice the riders would take. If racing had continued, there was a real risk of serious injuries, so the decision was made to postpone the event to the following week, much to the dismay of the crowd. Let's see what happens a week hence. So, whether you're a retiring champion, a valuable legend, or driving a friend's car, so you stay on track and up to speed, make sure you catch next week's Drive.